Hello and welcome again to our webinar series on F1 immigration subjects. Very glad to be with you again on this video. And today we're going to be talking about a very, very important subject. That's going to be post-OPT and STEM OPT, important in and of it themselves, but in particular, we're going to be talking about the mandatory reporting that's going to be necessary when you're on these statuses to maintain those statuses. Very important subjects to talk about here today, so let's get right into it. And we're going to talk a little bit first about a little bit of a disclaimer that we have here. So the content from today's presentation is only going to reflect the current ISSC advisement. So if you want to be on top of things, if you want to know exactly what the most up-to-date information on anything related to immigration or the F1 student experience is going to be, go ahead and visit the ISSC website. That's going to be issc.asu.edu. Visit that regularly for current announcements and updates. Anything that's going to be relevant, any relevant current information here, that's going to be up on the website as soon as we can possibly get that to you. So definitely just keep that in mind. Now, let's first talk about unemployment when we're on OPT or STEM OPT here, because that's going to be a very important part of what we're thinking about in terms of the reporting here. So, unemployment, when you're on post OPT, you have 90 days from the valid from date on your EAD card. See Sparky down there, and we have the valid from date. So, that's a little bit in the past there, but from that point forward, Sparky would have 90 days of unemployment in total on the post OPT, and that's cumulative. That's if Sparky were to use a little bit of those days, say 5 days, Sparky would have 85 afterward to keep going from that period. So that's your post OPT. Now, if you move ahead to the STEM extension, you get an additional 60 days to be added to the unused post OPT unemployment days. So let's say our friend Sparky there got through post OPT, only used 5 unemployment days. That would be 85 unemployment days added to the 60 that would move forward there. Or if Sparky had the total 90 days plus the 60, that's the ideal situation. That would be 150 days in total. So to make that point there, it would be an aggregate total of 150 days would be the maximum amount of unemployment that could be carried over in total on the full post OPT and the STEM extension. So that's a little bit more about how unemployment would work. Now, in terms of what the exact reporting requirements are, we're going to start with post OPT first. So, these are all going to be required to be reported within 10 days. So 10 days is going to be a very important timeline to keep in mind. Any kind of substantive reporting, which we're going to talk about here, must be reported within 10 days of the actual event occurring. So in terms of reporting changes, the updates have to be made with biographical or work details 10 days of the change itself. So ISSC is going to actually maintain your CVIS record, but it's going to be your responsibility to report OPT related information directly to USCIS through the Student Exchange Visitor Portal, the SEVP portal. That's something that students that are on OPT as part of the approval are going to get access to. So you're going to use the SEVP portal to update the following information. Anything related to employment, any kind of changes that you need to make employment, it's going to go there. If your address has changed, if you move, you're going to have to make the update there. Or if your phone number changes, you're going to have to make that. Now, updates made in the SEVP portal are going to be automatically reflected in your CVIS record overnight. So they interact and they kind of change over overnight. So don't worry about your CVIS record. If you make it in the SEVP portal, it's going to go there as well. Now, because of that 10-day deadline here, SCVP Portal has a 10-day reporting limit. If you need to report changes that go beyond this limit, we do have an eForm that can help you out with it. Again, don't go on this limit because you are required to do it within 10 days. If something were to happen, you can use our SCVP Portal issues eForm to make those updates there. But again, very important to make any of these changes yourself via the SCVP Portal within 10 days. Now, here's what the SEVP portal itself looks like here. It has 4 different pages as part of it. There's profile, which you can view or update your contact information. You can use employment there. This is how you would update anything related to employment. There's a history where you can just see what's happened to your record over time if you want to take a look at what has been updated here. Um, the also we have the account management as well. So if you ever need to change your passport, anything along those lines about that, you can go ahead and make updates in terms of the account management. Now, for reporting requirements when you're on the STEM OPT extension, there's a few more things to keep in mind as part of the STEM extension. So let's go ahead and take a look at that as well. So now, a similarity though is that you do need to have your reporting requirements within 10 days. So again, any updates to your biographical information, work details, still while you're on the STEM extension has to be reported within 10 days. So on your STEM OPT, you can't update your employment details yourself. So you have to report that through the way we do it here is through the STEM OPT employment update form. Now you can still use your SEVP portal, and you should update your phone number and your local address. So when and if changes happen there, still do report it through your SEVP portal and do that within 10 days. Now, however, unlike on post OPT where you make these changes yourself, use the STEM OPT employment update eForm on our side to report the following. So if you change to a new job, when your STEM OPT is approved and your EAD card has been uploaded, or if your STEM OPT is still pending, it's a kind of a different situation in terms of how we would approach it from there, but you would update it in the same area. If you have the same job but updated information, if some substantial stuff has changed about the nature of your job, if you get a new job and you add an additional job and you have more than one employer, if you have a new immigration status, maybe you transition to a work visa or something like that, or if you end a job, just if employment comes to an end, if that concludes, you need to report that through the STEM OPT employment update form. Now, as part of that process, any updates that are going to cause deviations or material changes to that formal training plan, which that is what your I-983 is. It is a formal training plan that you and your employer agree to train you as part of your major. You're a student in training from the perspective of the OPT here. So you're going to require a new submission of the form I-983. So I won't go over all of these, but you'll see, if you have a new employer, if your employer changes the address, you have a new supervisor, your job duties change, there's a decrease in your work hours. If there's, the last point is a little bit more vague, I guess you could say, in terms of exactly what it means, but that's why it's very important to continue to continually review your I-983. So when you take a look at that, when you take a look at what has been filled out, just take a look at it every now and again and see if the information that you've originally committed to is a little bit different, and have that documented if you need to make those changes. Now, there's also going to be some validation reports and evaluation that are regularly part of the program, so to speak, when it comes to your STEM OPT. So let's go ahead and talk about those in a little bit more depth here. So there's going to be 6-month intervals that you're going to take a look at these reports and evaluations here. So at your first 6 months, there is just a validation report that you have to go through. We're going to circle back to exactly what this looks like on the 12-month, but there's also an additional evaluation as well as a validation. Then when you get to 18 months, there's another validation you have to do. And then we'll circle back as part of the 12 months here, but the 24-month also has an additional evaluation. You also do need to complete that 24-month evaluation under two other circumstances. Then, the first one is when you get to the end of that 24 months. If you end a job prior to the 24 months, or if you change your status and get into a new visa type, or whatever, or green card or anything like that, whatever the new status may be, you do need to update that final valuation at that time as well. And what exactly does that look like in terms of self-evaluation versus the 20 more month final evaluation? So this is page 5 of your I-983. And that self-evaluation, that top part, is to be completed along with the validation report at your 12 months. So when you're at the 12 months, you do that self-evaluation, you fill that out, signatures there as you see, submit to us, and then we have it on file. 24-month evaluation is due at the end of your STEM OPT status, or again, that's why we say STEM OPT status if you get to the end of the 24 months, or if your employment comes to an end, or if you change statuses under those circumstances. And your current supervisor, just to keep in mind, must also sign off on both of these, on all of your current evaluations here. Now, in terms of a few different things for your final evaluation, that's on section at the bottom section of page 5 on your I-983. Again, you're going to need to fill it out if you have the end of employment, just if your employment opportunity comes to an end, no matter when that might be. If your STEM status is ending before your EAD card comes to an end. So we'll kind of expand on what this could be. Maybe you're changing your status to a different visa type. That's one example I've been talking about. Maybe you're transferring to a new institution, starting a new degree. Maybe you're changing your education level. You're staying here with ASU, but you're starting, maybe you're in a master's and you're starting a PhD. Or maybe, you have come to the end, you've decided that you want to return to your home country, for example, and you're just not using the remainder of your STEM. Still, under any kind of circumstance where your STEM is just going to be coming to an end, no matter what the situation is, just prior to the end of your EAD card, you still do need a final evaluation. And again, just highlighting again, change of immigration status. If you're transitioning, if you're going to be continuing working, even if you're in the same position, but you're on a work visa, you're on a permanent residency, whatever the new status may be, you still do need that final evaluation as well. Now, in terms of timeline and reporting responsibilities, in terms of your 6 month evaluation, so again, that's the 6 month, 12 month, 18 month, that can be submitted up to 30 days before the actual evaluation mark here. But ISSC's 7-day business processing time should be taken into consideration. Now, it is your responsibility as a student to ensure that you report on time. Now, we send reminder emails, SEVP reminder emails, sends those reminder emails, but it's ultimately your responsibility. So not getting the email is also not an excuse not to report on time. So make sure you don't submit it last minute. For those of you that are watching your video, this video here, we are warning you now. Make sure that this is something that you do. And also remember, reporting is a requirement to maintain your status. This is something that you are required to do. Now, again, that's just a friendly reminder here that you also need to upload your STEM EAD card as soon as you receive it. We need your post OPT, we need your STEM OPT. We need to have those on file. That's just a requirement that we have. This is what it would look like. So you can kind of see where it looks like when you're in the STEM OPT extension reporting. These are all the different elements that you need to do. And this is just a little peek at where you're going to see on our side when you're interacting with it and when it is time to report. So, with all that being said, let's take a look at a few common questions that we have. And those questions are, first of all, this SEVP portal is not allowing me to update my employment on STEM. How can I update that? Well, keep that in mind. If you're currently on STEM extension, you should submit the STEM OPT employment update eForm whenever you have new employment information. And that's going to indicate whether you need an updated I-983, but you're going to need to submit any updates directly through us, to us through that form there. Now, another question is, you've had a job title change with your current employer while you're on your STEM. Do you need to provide an update on I-93 to the employer update form? Now, if your job responsibilities have changed due to your title, then yes. And this is why it's always very good whenever you're even thinking there might be a change to just take another look at that I-983 and make sure that there's not something rather that you need to get updated. Now, if your job responsibilities haven't changed, but just your job title has changed, everything else looks like it's the same, we're just changing the title around a little bit, then no. If it's only the job title, new I-983 is required, but again, is not required rather. But again, that's why it's important to just take a look at your I-983 every now and again. And if things have changed, then they should change and you should submit a new one to us. Now, you're on OPT or STEM OPT and you got your H-1B approved. Congratulations. What are the next steps that you should take? Well, to maintain continuous work authorization, ensure that you're upholding your OPT status until your H-1B actually commences. So make sure that you're doing everything you need to do on OPT until H-1B begins. And then you would need to submit our F1 demographic update eForm to report your changes status as well. And if you're on your STEM OPT, make sure that you submit a STEM OPT employment update eForm to finalize your reporting on STEM. Because remember, you always need to submit that final evaluation. Now you're on post OPT and you changed employers over 15 days ago, and the SEVP portal won't allow you to update it. And how can you rectify this? Well, You should have made the report within 10 days of the change, but if that window is missed, the SEVP portal is not going to permit updates. You're still going to want to make sure the report gets in there. You would submit the SEVP portal issues eForm. We'll assist you in making the necessary updates. But again, not an ideal situation. You really want to make sure that you report within 10 days if you possibly can do that. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this little tour of reporting requirements here. I hope you've enjoyed joining us today. I've certainly enjoyed talking to you. Now, if you were thinking, wow, I really enjoyed watching that video, the only thing that would make it better is if I could interact live with the folks at ISSC and I can ask them questions. I could get all of my individualized questions answered here. Now, wouldn't it have been nice if this was a webinar or workshop? Well, we do have webinars and workshops and other live events going on right now throughout the semester here. So if you want to tune in for a webinar related to immigration, other subjects here, just take a look at issc.asu.edu/events. Lots and lots of very cool things happening live. And please join us for some of those. We would absolutely love to have you. And if you'd also just like to get in touch with us, have a question about your individual experience, want to meet us for advising, anything along those lines here, take a look at our email, our phone number, and our many advising opportunities here. We would love to talk to you. And we thank you so much for joining us for this session here, and we hope to catch you on another one very soon.